Hey, welcome again to Study Web Marketing. I'm Nikhil, your instructor, and in this session, we are going to cover Google Analytics report types. We have already covered basic Google Analytics report, which is Explorer, in our previous session. So in this session, we are going to discuss about other report types. First one is pie chart, or Google Analytics terms it as percentage. Second one is bar chart, which Google Analytics terms as performance. Third one is positive and negative bar chart, which is mentioned in Google Analytics as comparison. Third one is tag cloud, which Google Analytics names as term cloud. And last one is pivot, which surprisingly enough, Google Analytics actually calls it pivot. First one we are going to look at is pie chart or percentage report. As usual, let's look at a practical example for the same. As you can see on my screen, I'm on source medium report for Google Analytics demo account. And this is your default Explorer report, which we have covered in previous session. So I'm going to jump into pie chart, which is first report type other than Explorer. To navigate to different report types, you'll find a report type menu at the right hand top corner of your reporting table, as you can see it here. So the first one is percentage. I'm going to click on percentage, or a small pie chart icon that they have here. So this report, by default, this report will have your primary dimension, whatever you have chosen for report, which in this case is source medium, and one metric, which in this case is users. The same metrics by default will be represented in the pie chart as well, but you can change this metric for pie chart. So on the left hand side, you have a tabular report representing users by source medium. On the right hand side, let's try with sessions. Now, as I change this metric to sessions, you can see on the right hand side that pie chart now is representing percentage contribution to total number of sessions. You can also add a secondary dimension to your tabular report if you want. So let's try adding city as a secondary dimension. Here we go. So now you have secondary dimension as city, matrix is user, and for the pie chart you still have matrix as session, but now pie chart is represented by combination of source medium and city. That's why it has changed from where it was when we just had one dimension in this report. So let's go back to one dimension and see how it looks. Here we go. Lot simpler, lot cleaner, because when you have two dimension, it makes things complicated. Second report we are going to discuss is bar chart report, which you'll find right next to pie chart in the reports menu. As you can see, this is very similar to pie chart. You have one dimension and one metric represented in a tabular format, and on right hand side, instead of pie chart, you have bar chart. Where this differs from pie chart is bar charts are always easier to recognize and arrange when it comes to ranking. As you can see right now, you have highest number of users from source, medium, direct, and none, and that's how it's represented in bar chart as well. 32% of the total users have come from source, direct, and medium, none. Third report we have in this format. Third report we have in reporting type is positive and negative bar charts, which Google Analytics also calls as comparison report, which is next report on your report type menu. This report again is very similar to the bar chart, but this report is more suitable for ratio matrix rather than absolute matrix, because it actually compares the particular metric against site average. So let's try with ratio metrics rather than absolute metrics. Let's try with bounce rate. Now, as you can see, what this is telling me is source, medium, direct and none has 26% higher bounce rate compared to site average, while Google Organic has 21% lower bounce rate compared to site average. This is why the report is more useful for using on ratios rather than absolute metrics. So instead of bounce rate, we can try out another ratio. Let's say pages per session is another ratio metric. As you can see, again, what this shows is source, medium, direct, none has 38% lower pages per session compared to site average, while Google Organic has 20% higher pages per session compared to site average, which basically means that Google Organic as a source gives you more engaged users, while direct none gives you less engaged users. So you can use this metric for comparing engagement metrics or any kind of ratio between two metrics like conversion rate, pages per session, bounce rate, etc. This report, just like pie chart and bar chart, can represent two different metrics on tabular and on visualization part. You can also add secondary metric just like pie chart and bar chart. Fourth report that we are going to look at is term cloud or tag cloud, which is the fourth report at the right hand top of your reporting table. Now this report can be quite confusing for a new user. What essentially this report does is it is represented in font size. So higher the font size, the more contribution that particular dimension has contributed towards the success metric that you have chosen in this drop down. So this report right now, which is on your screen, is representing that direct none and Google Organic are highest contributing dimensions to matrix user. Now let's try and look at some other metrics to put this in perspective. So if you look at sessions, I'm guessing this should be pretty similar because users and sessions are usually closely correlated. So highest number of sessions are being generated by source, medium, direct none and Google Organic as well. But now let's look at something which has more level playing field. So let's look at e-commerce conversion rate. Now when you visualize this report with metric as e-commerce conversion rate, as you can see, pretty much every dimension is on level playing field because e-commerce conversion rate doesn't really vary much according to the dimensions. We can try another metric like revenue. Revenue is an absolute metric, and that's why again you can see that googleplex.com referral is contributing to most revenue to this particular website. This report really doesn't show any particular metric. It just represents the size of metric with the font size of that particular dimension. The last report we have in this session is pivot, which is probably my favorite report of all in Google Analytics. It is the last report in your report types menu, and as you can click on this, what you'll see essentially is one horizontal and one vertical axis to plot your dimensions, and you can have either one or two metrics in this report, not more than two metrics. So right now our primary dimension is source medium, and it's plotted on horizontal as well as vertical axis, which is not really helping us. But what we can do is we can plot different dimensions on vertical and horizontal axis. So in the pivot by menu, you can choose another dimension. So let's try country. Now country as the dimensions will be plotted on horizontal axis. As you can see, United States, India, Brazil, etc. is plotted on horizontal axis, while source medium is still plotted on your vertical axis, which means this becomes easy to navigate that United States from source medium direct none has had 4,444 users. Quite interesting number actually. So This is how you pivot report based on different dimensions and one or two metric. Right now this report shows only one metric, but you can add another metric by clicking on this drop down and adding the metric that you are looking for. So for example, for now you can add metric which is closely related to users is sessions. As you can see, again, by source medium, let's take direct none, and country United States has had 4444 users and 5620 sessions. You can also add a secondary dimension to this report if you want to make it more complex. So that's all there is to pivot report. Now let's have a quick recap on all the reports. The first report is pie chart or percentage. By default, it will have one metric and one dimension in table, same dimension and one more metric presented in pie chart. You can add a secondary dimension, and drill down menu for this report is also available. Let's quickly look at what is drill down menu. Drill down menu is this menu at the top of your reporting table, which starts with your primary dimension which you have chosen for this report, but you can also drill down into the granularities of this dimension. So from source medium, you can drill it down to source, medium, keyword, or any other dimension that you're looking for. Second report we have seen in this session is bar chart or performance report, which is very similar to pie chart. One metric and one dimension in table, same dimension and one more metric can be presented in bar chart. Secondary dimension can be added. Drill down menu is available. This is very similar to pie chart, but is better suited when you are trying to rank some dimensions by a particular metric. Third report which we visited in this session is bar chart comparison. This is again very similar to pie chart and bar chart reports. One metric and one dimension in table. Same dimension and another metric can be presented in bar chart. Secondary dimension can be added. Drill down menu is also available. But this particular report is more suited for ratio metrics like pages per session, bounce rates, conversion rates, e-commerce conversion rate, etc. Tag cloud report essentially only represents one metric. Larger the font size, higher the metric size. Secondary dimension is available there in the reporting interface but doesn't really work. And drill down menu is also available, and surprisingly it works too. Pivot report is probably the most complex as well as most interesting in all Google Analytics report types. One dimension you can put on each axis. You can also add a secondary dimension if you want. Single metric by default, but you can also add another metric, and drill down menu for this is also available. Usually pivoting is done in Excel or a Google Sheets or some kind of spreadsheet where you download the data from Google Analytics and pivot it based on two or more dimensions. But if you want to save yourself trouble of downloading and using a spreadsheet program, you can use this report and you can do pivoting in the interface itself. As usual, I'd like to leave you with one of my favorite analytics quotes and something to ponder upon. Thank you.